just just a wealth of information, and
Yeah.
and just love his projects.
I thought it was pretty interesting myself. I don't know if you remember me, Steve, but I met you once before at the presentation.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, you were front row Joe, if I recall.
Yeah, yeah, more than likely.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm ready. You guys ask. I talk about this all day, so it'll be easy.
Yeah, I'm gonna launch it, and then Yana will share it on our Facebook group, and I'll launch it to my main group. So give me 1 second. It's getting ready. It takes a while. Okay, here we go. They make me fill out these things. All right. Well, we're live. Hey, good afternoon, Steve, from beautiful Utah, and glad to have you on our podcast, Higher Profits with Bobby and Yana. We're going to talk a little bit about what you've been up to. It's been almost 7-8 months since we had you in the Bay Area, but a lot has changed since then. I see that you're making a lot of progress with your projects. So Yana, introduce yourself, and I think everybody knows you, but tell us a little bit about what you've been up to, Yana.
Oh, okay. So I've been working with Bobby, obviously. We've been doing a lot of this stuff and educational content. Hopefully you guys are finding some value in what we're trying to bring to you. Our goal is to really build confidence in investors. Ultimately, we would love to do projects with you guys, but the first and foremost, the first mission is to build confidence and give you guys the education and the platform that it requires to be confident in your investments. So Steve is just another one of our resources that we're bringing to you guys. Hopefully you find some value in today's conversations.
Yeah, perfect. So Steve, again, thank you so much for making time. I know you probably got 100 things going on, but tell us, since we met last, say 6 or 8 months ago, how's FIG doing? What's happening to your new construction projects? I know you closed out a bunch of projects, which is great, but share with us, why you focus on new construction, why fourplexes, and tell us about the Phoenix project.
Sure. You've got me okay on the audio?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, awesome. Well, yeah, you said a little bit has changed since the last time I saw you. That's the understatement of the decade. Wow, I mean, the world is such a different place, and I'd love to come out and speak to the group and hang out again. It's going to be a while before anyone wants to do a bunch of that, but I have traveled a couple of times during the coronavirus on an airplane.
Very nice.
And I'm still here. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice. Nobody sits in the middle seat on Delta. They don't let it happen. I'm like, you do this all the time. This is way better. Yep. But everybody always asks me what is happening, because I think that the place that they're coming from when they ask what you did is, should they invest right now? Right? What should they be doing with their capital? Because people are a little bit nervous about what's going on. And I think, first of all, the answer is, well, nobody knows for sure, but there's been something that I've seen gradually emerge, because I know the conversations I was having in late March and April and for much of May, investors' attitudes were, yeah, I'm going to wait and see. I'm going to take a wait and see approach. And who could blame them during that time and what was happening, what's kind of still happening, right? But what I have seen happen for sure is, if anything, residential real estate has been proven even more during this coronavirus. Because what did the government tell you to do? It said, stay home. Right? That was the one place you could really go, was home. And so when you're owning those kinds of assets, homes or apartments where people can go, the demand has proven to be relatively solid. What a lot of people have been worried about is, anytime you say, hey, 30% of the economy shut down, what does that do to people's abilities to pay rent?
Yes.
And everybody's been concerned about that. Was that going to lead to a rise in cap rates? Because now a whole bunch of your apartment livers and your home renters can't pay those rents anymore. So far, really what we've seen at FIG, we've got a couple of thousand doors under management and a whole bunch more under construction. The boogeyman from the coronavirus has been pretty mild so far. I'm looking for some wood to knock on because we're not out of it yet. But I heard one analyst say that April, May, and June, when it comes to rent collections and delinquencies, was going to be the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? We haven't seen it hit nearly as bad as we thought. We have had people affected that couldn't pay rent. Most of them are talking to us. The management company is making a conscious effort to reach out and develop payment plans and give assistance with those people because, hey, we get it, right? You lose your job overnight through no fault of your own. This is a problem that we all kind of share together. Very few of the tenants are ghosting us. You couldn't evict them even if you wanted to until the end of July.
Right.
All the guidance from local governments has been, you can't evict for this long or that long. None of that matters because if you have a federally insured loan, you can't do it till the end of July.
Right.
So it doesn't matter what your governor said. You have a problem with your loan servicer if you do otherwise. So, those tenants that won't talk to us, unfortunately, when you get to that point, what choice do you have, right? But all the leniency that can be given is being given because it's a problem. But that's been good. I'm waiting for the $600 of unemployment bonus at the end of July to run out. I want to see what happens there. Is it going to push people back to work? Are they going to cut back in other areas? So the jury's still kind of out on this. And that's really how it's affected us on the property management level. But so far, investors have been able to collect the majority of their rents. It's been able to preserve the values. And us in the fourplex realm, we're not quite as affected as larger multifamily because when you look at rent delinquencies
Right.
on a 200 unit building, the problem is you've got, a 7 or a 10-year mortgage. Well, it's amortized over 20 or 30, but that thing is due. You got to refi. You've got those yearly lease audits on a fourplex. You've got a true 30-year fixed rate loan. If you're making your payment, nobody's bothering you about anything else.
Yep.
So you can kind of weather that stuff if you've got some capital reserves to get through it. It really hasn't affected us much at all on the construction side. There was some LVT flooring and door hardware coming out of China earlier that caused some small disruptions in the supply chain, but been able to work through that. And every state that we operate in said that construction was essential. I think that there were only a couple of metros that said construction couldn't continue during the coronavirus. We were able to continue. And then our real estate arm, we could continue as well. We were deemed an essential business. So it was harder to operate during that late March through the end of May, but we were able to do it. Something, as we sit here, it's what, June 26th?
Yeah.
I don't know what happened 2 to 3 weeks ago. I think it was a lot of the economy's reopening, but the investors just woke right up and they're going crazy right now. And I think it's partly too because they realize, you know what? Yeah, people do need a place to live because I've kind of felt people have been saying, oh, cap rates are going to go up. You know what? In residential, I'm skeptical about that to a degree. We need to see how things shake out in the overall economy. But one thing that bears mentioning, if you're to compare this to 2008, in 2008, overnight, the kind of people that lost jobs, lost incomes was higher income. We're talking finance, real estate, insurance.
Right.
Now, a lot of the incomes that have been jeopardized are more on the service side and hospitality, and those are usually lower income amounts.
Yeah.
And so I feel insensitive saying it, but the economy feels that a little less. Now you're going to feel it when you can't go out to dinner, right? You can't go on your vacation and you hate that, but that's going to come back. I mean, nobody's saying, hey, I'm not going to go on vacation again one day. We know that'll come back at some point.
For sure.
But here's the key that we're watching. If you own office real estate, hospitality real estate, the economy is still deciding what to do about you. I mean, you're on the block. we're finding out right now how many office jobs really have to be done in an office. I mean, you're seeing so much of these people that now they got sent home to work. Are they ever really even going to go back? And are they going to go back full time? A lot of them aren't.
No,
So we don't know where this is all going to shake out with office, right? I'm watching the fact that interest rates are really, really low.
Yep.
And that the Fed has said, we do not want liquidity to be a problem at all. I mean, the amount of money that's getting put out there by the Fed, you can't fit that on most calculators. It doesn't fit on my calculator.
Yeah.
The number is so big.
Okay.
So I look at all the money in circulation, I look at the demand for housing, and I look at interest rates, and I look at the fact that the people that have been taken off the sidelines economically, probably a lot of them weren't in the market to buy anyway.
No. No.
I can't come up with a situation where I see prices plummeting.
No.
And I would also add too, you saw prices plummet back in 08. And that's a big supply and demand problem. Builders put up so many homes. There was so much supply, and then the demand went away overnight. The demand here has not gone away, and supply was really, really short going into this. So
yep.
my big old asterisk is over the short to medium term. I don't know. It's
Yep.
crazy right now.
Yep.
But over the long term, I think we see a situation where, yeah, if you've got capital reserves, maybe you don't go in as heavy right now. But nobody can sit there and tell you with a straight face that there isn't a demand for housing. You know, you guys are there in the tech area of the country. Nobody's invented a way for you to not have to go to sleep at night somewhere. You got to do that, right? You got to live somewhere, and that's still the case. So we've operated through it, and we're continuing forward with our projects, and we're excited to make our entry into the Phoenix metro. Great economy, has grown up a lot since the 08 recession, where it was the poster child for foreclosures. Is a completely different place now.
Yeah, no, Phoenix has done very well. One of the things that I'm really sort of excited about when FIG picks up a region, like you do a lot of research, and because you're putting a lot of money to work, so you have, you know, the markets that you pick are really spectacular markets, like, you know, Boise, just outside of Boise, you know, outside of Salt Lake City, outside of Houston, and now Phoenix. So I know that you've done all your homework before you break ground and acquire the land and so on. Tell us a little bit about your philosophy at FIG. You know, why, you know, fourplexes, you know, and I have a little joke because I saw that you had some triplexes in your Phoenix property. So I think you're going to have to change the name to 3.5 Investment Group, something like that, instead of four.
Don't quit your day job, Bobby. No, we joke, you know, when we do duplexes, it's dig, right? It's, you know, but yeah, the interesting note about that and the triplexes in Arizona is we're building those apartment style, right? So they're vertical stacked triplexes, and it's because the city would only let us go 3 levels high. So yeah, it's got to be triplexes, right? So you're seeing some renderings and some stuff from our website about that. But yeah, we really try to vet the markets, and more importantly, the sub-markets that we go into. And this is I mean, there's a lot of variables here, right? You can go buy affordable land in lots of places, but who's going to want to rent it? And then you can go buy land where, yeah, everybody's going to want to rent it, but it's a terrible deal, right? We have to get there in the middle. So we're looking primarily, we like landlord-friendly markets, right? Mm-hmm. Places where they don't know what rent control even is, mm-hmm. right? That's number one. We like a diverse economic base where there's lots of different kinds of jobs from lots of different kinds of industries. And, you know, I would point to Houston. It has that stigma that it's just an oil town, but that's actually not the case anymore. It's a much more diverse economy than it used to be. What happened over the last couple of months, if this was in the 70s in Houston, would have taken that place completely into the gutter. But now they have a much more diverse employment base. And that's the case with Phoenix. And you look back at 08 in Phoenix, it was construction and tourism and some government. Now there's a lot more tech, medical, logistical that has come into that economy. And we really work that western side of the valley. Granted, who doesn't want to own a place in Scottsdale? But when you're trying to make a return, that's a different matter. And even on some of those eastern cities like Mesa, Gilbert, Queen Creek, really, really great. It's pretty expensive, although we do have our eyes on something out there. So we're working the western side because that's a balance of people want to rent there, they can afford it. They're in a lot of those logistical, government, education jobs on the west side. So cities like Surprise and Glendale and Goodyear, Avondale, just to name a few, out on that western side of the valley is where we can make it work. You're seeing more and more expansion out there. That's right along the 10 headed out to Los Angeles.
Got it.
So it's a great logistical hub there.
Steve,
Yeah, go ahead, Yana.
for those that aren't familiar with your projects, I want you to kind of explain what you guys do.
Yeah, I've been jabbering for like 30 minutes and people are like, what's this guy talking about? So here's in a nutshell what we do, Yana, is fourplexes are bread and butter, and it might be triplexes. You know, Bobby's hilarious joke alluded to that. But fourplexes are a very, very unique, hyper-focused niche. They allow you to get a lot of the good that comes from single family and a lot of the good that comes from multifamily. Yeah. We all know the great from multifamily is the fact that you got lots of tenants, right? Your income source is pretty solid because it takes a lot of people not paying for you to jeopardize that income source, right? Well, single family, the best thing about single family, and this is unique to the United States of America, is the true 30-year fixed rate conventional mortgage, right? You get a mortgage, you put 20, 25% down, and it's amortized and paid over 30 years. Commercial doesn't have that. Every other country in America or in the world doesn't have that. So what if you could have an asset that had the characteristics of multiple streams of income from multifamily, but the financing from single family? And that's what we're catered to do. Now, here's the trick with it, Yana, is that in just about every metro I've been to, you all know there's these little hodgepodge neighborhoods where back in the 70s and 80s, builders put up a bunch of fourplexes. It was popular to do back then. We're bringing it back, okay? We're doing it again, but they did those in neighborhoods that now they don't have anybody really minding the store. So when that guy across the street from you lets his tenants park on the lawn and hang up really stupid curtains and sheets and leave stuff everywhere and not fix his roof and it looks terrible, when you try to lease your fourplex, that tenant looks across the street and says, I gotta live by those people, right? They don't wanna do that. So you have to create a fourplex that preserves the value. So we do ours within HOA communities where the only members of the HOA are you, investors just like you. And then the second thing that we do is we predominantly do pre-construction. Go talk to an agent in your market, tell them to pull fourplex listings on the MLS and prepare to be underwhelmed. They're going to be priced way expensive. They're going to have a ton of deferred maintenance. You might find the diamond in the rough every now and then, but for the most part, they're expensive compared to what you're getting for them. So what we've done is this pre-construction system where when we release a project, we've got this subdivision map of 30 triplexes, for example. Investor Susie picks one of them and she goes through the construction process. We get her a construction loan and we build it for her. And because I can go to our builder and say, hey, this subdivision is pre-sold, that allows him to give a much better price to Susie, the investor. And the reason Susie would be crazy enough to do that, to get a construction loan, wait for this build, wait for this lease up, is because she's getting a better price. Traditionally, the cap rate that fourplexes sell at in the markets where we operate is around a 5. We sell these things in the mid 6s, sometimes even 7. So it translates into better cash flow that comes from a higher cap rate and the equity that comes from a higher cap rate. It really is, I jokingly call it the armchair value add,
yep.
Right? You go find an old, yeah, go ahead, Yana.
Does your program offer the property management as well, or is it the investor's responsibility to lease it up and find tenants?
We're an A to Z operation. So FIG, the Fourplex Investment Group, remember FIG is actually not a company, it's a brand. But under that brand, there are 5 companies, property management being one of them. So there's a handoff from our construction team to the manager who does all the lease up, tenant qualifications, and collections going forward.
Yep. I mean, yeah, no, they really have it nailed down, all the way from financing to property management to construction to, when you want to sell, and they keep the consistency of that project and the surroundings is impeccable.
So if I wanted to become a multifamily investor tomorrow and I don't really know where to start with FIG, all I have to have is the money and the credit eligibility.
Yeah, that's right. It's a good way because, I hear something that I think is incorrect said a lot within the new real estate investor community, which is you should buy apartments or commercial because they don't care about your credit. They just care about the deal, right? Try going into underwriting with them not caring about you at all, right? They care.
They care.
And the nice thing about what you said, Jan, on a fourplex is they care about your credit and if you have the down payment. But you get into an asset that's multifamily and you can start to build the track record, right? So if you want to be a syndicator and get into those bigger deals and be able to show, yeah, I've done this, this is a great way to do it. And then on the other hand, if you're a working professional, fourplexes are a great way to maximize your limited conventional loans, right? So when we talk a conventional loan, that's a true 30-year fixed rate mortgage, and Fannie Mae says you can only have 10 of those, right? It doesn't matter if you're a billionaire like Bobby, he can only get 10 conventional loans, right? So why not get as many doors as possible with those loans, right? Get that true economies of scale. In theory, an investor could own 40 doors with their 10 conventional loans. If it's like a husband-wife couple and they both qualify, you'd get 80 doors, right? All with true 30-year fixed rate debt, which I think is a lot more recession resistant. I would never say something is recession proof. If anything, we've learned over the last few months, nothing is recession proof. Yeah. But when no one's doing lease audits on you or you don't have a balloon payment in 10 years, you can navigate that stuff a little bit better.
So yeah, a couple of things. Number one, he exaggerated a little bit, maybe in Venezuelan pesos or. But
I thought it was Bitcoin.
Yeah, it was Bitcoin. but for people that are, Steve makes a very legitimate point. Like, I know people that are doing syndications, and yes, their credit matters. Their team's credit matters. If they're putting a team together, maybe one individual, it may not matter. But if they're putting a sponsor together, it matters. So this is a way, and it's also a way for people to do diversification, right? So they can, in the husband and wife team, could end up with 80 doors, but some of them are in Houston, some of them are in Phoenix, some of them are in Idaho, some of them are in Utah. So you have some geographical diversification as well, but you can start to build like a pool of investments in one area working with FIG. So I really like that approach as well. So very cool.
The financing terms, Steve, they're still 20% down, right?
Actually, you're going to need 25 because anytime you, on a conventional loan, when you jump out of single family into duplexes, tris, or quads, Fannie will require 25. And construction lenders, remember, we're talking about two loans here. There's a construction loan, and then there's the long-term Fannie Mae takeout. The construction lenders want 25, so does Fannie. And anybody, you can contact me. We've got it all broken out in pro formas that show the projections, and we're happy to do a walkthrough with anybody that wants to understand that a little more.
An average price per door on new construction for you guys, total cost about $125?
No, let's see. It depends on the unit type and the market, right? You're going to be anywhere from, I'm just using my calculator here because I'm not very good at math. That's comforting, right? You're going to be anywhere from 160 to 220 a door, but that could be a 2-bedroom unit, or it could be like a 3-story, 1,800 square foot townhouse. So you can see market and floor plan varies a lot. The cool thing is you can always look at it and you can ascertain some value just comparatively. You can go, hey, look, I'm getting that townhouse for, you know, $180 a door. You can't buy a townhouse for less than $250 in that market, right? It's easy for investors to wrap their head around that value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's because you go pre-construction. You got to be that crazy investor that's willing to go vertical, because you're bringing something new onto the market. But as long as you're comfortable with the market and you go, you know what, this place is growing, I like it, people want to live here, then it's going to work for you.
Very nice.
Makes a lot of sense. We should probably do a webinar with Steve to break down the process for analysis, how the construction loan works, how to evaluate, you know, which the markets that they're in. But I would, Steve, if you're up for it, maybe in July, sometime, whenever you have a little breather, let's do an hour-long deep dive. Let's showcase some of the projects that you've done, and also the layout. I mean, the finishes, right? The layout and the finishes are very important. Like, I see some of the finishes, and it's like luxury class type of apartment building finishes that they have, and the way they designed the parking and the green areas in their communities, it's really well done. So would love to have you back maybe in end of July or something.
Yeah, send me the calendar link and we'll get it booked for sure. We've got this stuff coming up in Arizona. We've got a few units we're still doing here in Utah, and more units coming down the pipe there, as well as in Idaho, and a lot going on. So it's a great way to be able to invest in the Western United States, which is a lot harder for cash flow than the Midwest. And so if you're looking to, you know, say, I've got some houses over here, but I want to diversify a little in the multifamily too, it's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people are kind of excited about the idea of owning more than one unit, new construction, having someone do all the work from A to Z. That's a pretty good opportunity.
I would just add in one final note too, that if you're a real estate professional on your taxes, or maybe you're working a W-2 job, you've got some rental properties, and maybe your spouse isn't working and can claim real estate professional, this gets insane on what we can do with some of the depreciation and cost segregation benefits that come from new construction on that much square footage. So it'll get a lot sweeter than just cap rates and cash flow, because it'll mean a lot less that you have to pay the tax man. So even if you're not in that position yet, we should talk about how you get there, because that's the best way to minimize your tax bill that I know of. Because I'll sound like the crazy guy, but with all this money they've been pushing out there, what do you think is going to happen to your taxes eventually?
Okay, go.
Oh gosh, don't even remind me.
Yeah, get ready.
Get ready.
Yeah.
Buy income producing real estate that you can depreciate. That's a good defense against what's going on right now.
I agree, 100%. Wow, that you know, very enlightening. Steve, do you have any other, like, what are some of are people ever buying these fourplexes and then eventually like moving into live in one of them? How often does that happen?
It happens. It's not a lot, but it happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
If they do that through FIG, do they get a different type of loan if it's owner occupied?
That is a little bit more complex of a question than our Facebook Live would want to get into.
Okay.
But yeah, you're gonna need 25% on the front, but sometimes how you refi out, there's a little bit of flexibility. But then you start kind of, if you cross over the FHA threshold for the amount that they allow per county, so there's some variables there we should talk about if that's what somebody's considering doing.
Yeah, I think a second step webinar would be really beneficial. I'm sure there's a lot of interest out there. So it seems like a very low barrier to entry for people who want to get started.
Yeah, you need funds and credit, and some people even partner on this stuff too. We've had people like, hey, I got 80K, you've got 100, you've got 50, let's go in together. People do that frequently too. It allows them to just kind of, they don't have to go full on syndication and all the nonsense that comes with it. It's some friends partnering on a deal.
Yep.
Cool.
Oh, very nice, very nice. Thank you, Steve. Thanks for your time. Yana, once again, thank you. We did a marathon session today. Hopefully our viewers will enjoy this. We'll record this, we'll post it up on our YouTube channel, and I look forward to, well, I look forward to when Steve can visit us in person. That would be phenomenal. But I just look forward to having Steve on a more, a longer, more in-depth webinar for our whole meetup group as well.
We'll get it on the books.
Thank you, sir. Have
Thanks, Steve. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, you too. You
All
too.
right.
Take care.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.